How's everyone doing? This was a video I did not want to make. This was the one that I had to think about a lot. When my dad passed away, I actually did not really respect him. My dad was very much so somebody that I actually took a little bit of issues with. But when he passed, I was still incredibly heartbroken, and I was incredibly just shattered. It still hurt really, really bad. When we were kids, my dad had gone out of the Navy, and we fell on hard times. And I believe he kind of took it out on us. I think that his anger was manifested through depression or vice versa. One time, we'd gotten sent home from the daycare center we were at, and he was so pissed, he was yelling and screaming. The cops got called on him. The neighbors called the cops on him. There was a couple times where he did stuff where I still never forgave him for it. One time he walked straight up across the house to hit me, but he was still my dad. And when he passed away, I was still shattered. My dad was a Christian conservative and in many ways a teabagger, a Tea Party member, and I have nothing but disdain for them. My dad was homophobic. He did not take my transition well. He was incredibly racist, and he said things that actually physically bothered me. Like, I would stop and be like, well, I called him out on it a few times. I straight up asked him, what the fuck does that have to do with anything we're talking about here? And he was surprised by the pushback. He was one of those people that got enamored and sucked into AM radio and talk radio, and he really did have that transformation where they go from rational, logical adults and beings to just being like really racist and ignorant. And it was actually at times really disconcerting. He was very much so a Christian conservative, and I'm very much so a liberal atheist. And no, it's not some pushback against him. I actually use my brain unlike him. But he was still my dad. Through all of his flaws, through all of his anger, through all of his ignorance, through all of that, he was still my dad. And while he didn't take my transition very well, he still loved me. And while I had lost a lot of respect for him, he was still my dad. The day he passed was incredibly painful for us all. And I remember being in a fog, and I remember feeling like shit. And I remember very much so feeling incredibly down and incredibly just sad, and very much so not all there. So even though we were rather different people, even though we were rather at times very much so unable to deal with each other, he was still my dad. And while I didn't see eye to eye on him with pretty much anything that was political, it didn't really matter. There's still a lot of other memories there. I remember him taking us to skate parks when we were kids. And now that he has passed, and there has been some time between his death and when I'm making this video, I'm able to think about things a little bit differently. The mourning is not, I don't think it'll ever be complete, because you kind of don't get over stuff like that, but you're able to move on, and you're able to, continue on with your life. But when he passed away, I posted this picture. It's of me, him, and my brother at my brother's wedding. It was the day after I'd gotten back from my Afghanistan deployment. I honestly don't remember much of that day because I was so jet lagged and so just bleh. I remember I looked up at one point or another and I saw my sister-in-law walking down the aisle, and I thought, oh yeah, about a wedding. Yeah, I was out of it. But the best part about the picture is that my dad is smiling in it. And not only is he smiling, he's outright beaming. He's smiling from ear to ear. That's a big natural smile. He never really smiled in pictures, and we like to fuck with him about it. We like to razz him a little bit, and like to kind of go, like mess with him. Like, really, could have smiled in a picture, Dad? And he'd be like, yeah, fuck you. He'd get kind of pissed at us for it, but this picture, nobody had to convince him. His oldest son had just gotten married. The middle child had just come home from the Second War. And to him, it was a really good day. And I know that was one of the proudest days of his life. And so while I had my issues with him, that's how I want to remember him. Put away the racism, put away the political ignorance, put away all that stupidity, and remember him for the good stuff that he did. And I think that's how people should be mourned. Everybody has flaws. Everybody has personality issues. Everybody gets on everybody else's nerves. It's just how we are as people, how we are as humans, and how we are dependent on our own society. And while I definitely disagreed with him on a lot of things, he was still my dad. And when he passed away, it still really, really fucking hurt.